We've just finished the first quarter of the year, and as you guys may already know, I like to use times like this to review how my trading's going and make any changes that are needed, go through the optimization process. And that's exactly what I've been doing recently, and if you're interested, I'll share with you in a separate video the changes that I've chosen to make. But what's more important for now is that I want to encourage you to go through the same process, to go through like your reviewing process and see what changes you might need to make. You see, the start of this year has been really tricky in the markets. We've had a lot of volatility, a lot of uncertainty. We've had rising inflation, incoming interest rate rises, monetary policy changes, and then of course the war in Ukraine. So it's fully expected that things would be uncertain, difficult to navigate, and just a pretty tricky time all round. But the thing is, judging from the messages that I receive from you guys, that's not necessarily the struggle that's been causing the poor results for a lot of you. Instead, the real issue has been down to a lack of clarity in exactly what you should be doing. So for some of you, this is expected because you're early on into your journey on becoming a trader, you need to spend more time learning, you'll get there eventually. But for others, it's more a case of not actually having a fully thought out system, where there are areas where you know exactly what you should be doing and this makes you feel like you have a consistent system, but then there are other parts where you're just freeballing it in the moment. You're kind of making it up as you go along, and therefore you don't have a consistent system. Now, unfortunately, when we open a trade in the market or when we're considering opening a trade, our body goes through psychological and physiological changes. Hormones are released into our system that affect the way that we operate, and this in many situations can affect the way that we make decisions, and not in a good way either. So this means the clearer we can be about exactly what we need to do up front before we're in those moments, the less we're going to depend on hopefully making the right decision in the heat of the moment when we're faced with that uncertainty. So I don't want to make this a really long video or anything. Basically, I have a series of questions that I'd recommend asking yourself about your trading. Not all of them are necessarily going to apply directly to how you trade, so if that's the case, you can always swap them for something more relevant. But before you completely disregard one of the questions, I want you to really ask yourself, is this something that doesn't apply to me, or am I just choosing to ignore it so I can avoid dealing with it? Okay, be honest with yourself. So spend time answering the questions, and if at any point you aren't clear on what your answer is to one of them, now you know what to spend time working on and getting more clarity on. Okay, so here are the questions. What is your market selection based on? In other words, each day when you trade, how do you choose a market? What factors is it that you're looking for? Do you have an efficient process for choosing that market? How do you know if that market you're focusing on is the right market for you? And then what triggers an entry? Are you clear about what combination of factors you're looking for, what setup, what move you're jumping in on? Do you know what factors would veto an entry? Any negative filters? Any times that you say, nope, that setup, I can't go for that because of this, this, and this? Then what's your stop loss based on? And if you don't use a stop loss, you could just think about what your exit, if the price is moving in a loss, is going to be based on. When do you choose to get out of a trade when things aren't going right? And how do you decide on how much to risk? What's this position size going to be based on? What about the opportunity is it that you're deciding, right, this percentage is at risk for this trade? When do you move the stop loss to break even? Or when do you de-risk the trade? And when I say de-risking the trade, that might mean scaling out part of the profit so you can use that profit to cover the stop loss on the remaining part so you can keep it where it is without it costing you anything, or just moving the stop loss to break even for the overall original position, or any other way that you might de-risk, like hedging or other strategies. Are you clear on when you do this and what it is that you should be doing? Likewise, when do you do the same but in profit? So when do you move the stop loss into profit, where if the price moves against you after it's been in profit, it doesn't lead to a loss, it means that you can bank something. When do you do that, if at all? When do you scale out or multiple scale outs, like closing part of the trade to bank a profit without closing the whole trade so you can leave some running? Maybe you don't do this. If that's the case, that's fine as well, but try to justify why you don't do this. Can you scale in on your position or not? And if you can scale in, as in increasing a position that's already open, when can you do this? What's the criteria that you need to see to be able to scale into a trade? And when do you fully exit the trade in profit? Okay, so it's moved in profit, you're like, that's it, going to switch back to being neutral now. And finally, if you close the trade in a loss, particularly when it goes straight to stop loss straight after entering, Can you re-enter the trade? What's the criteria for re-entering the trade? Are there any signs for when you shouldn't re-enter a trade, when you might be revenge trading or something like that? So, as I said before, these questions aren't extensive, it's not absolutely everything, and you should adjust them a bit based on how you trade. But I think overall, these are the type of things that you need to get really, really clear about. One of my principles with my trading is that things have to be based on logic. I don't like to do things just for the sake of it. I like to know that everything has a valid reason. So I can ask myself why I do something with any aspect of my trading, and I'll have a good answer for it. It's not just because I've always done it that way. So let me know how you get on in the comments section, and also let me know how your trading has been going so far this year. Has it been tough, or have you been cruising through? Hit the like button if you found this helpful, and especially if you're going to go through this exercise yourself. Make sure you check out our last video that's on screen here, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.